Okay, so on the assignment, we're up to Red-Eyed Bride. So this was a photo taken at my friend's wedding. She doesn't know that I called her the Red-Eyed Bride, so don't tell if you know her. Okay, so I'm just gonna open the Red-Eyed Bride photo. Actually, I'm in the photo too, and I have red eyes too. So this is what happens sometimes with photos, with cameras, how the light catches the eyes. So in 12 images, Red-Eyed Bride, open, and there's a tool to fix it, which you might have seen. Oops, what just happened? Did Photoshop quit on me? It looks like it did. Hope that doesn't happen again. Okay, open. Alright. That was weird. Let's hope it's okay. Okay, going into my exercise 6, 12 images. Red-Eyed Bride taking revenge here. Okay, let's open that. Okay, so you might have seen among the healing brushes is the at the very bottom of the list, when you click and hold on the healing brush tools, there's the red eye tool you can click on. And I'm going to zoom in with my zoom tool. So we'll start with the bride. So then go to your red eye tool, and you can experiment with adjusting the pupil size and the darken amount. Normally it starts out at 50% for pupil size and darken amount, and then if you find that you have to keep going over the eyes a lot, then you could increase and see if it gives you a more dramatic effect. So you just, the way you work with it is, I'm going to zoom in with, let's see if I can zoom in here. Oh, there I just clicked it and it worked. But normally you would click and drag a box around the iris, and it takes out, or you could just click, actually clicking. Oh, but I wouldn't just click, because then it kind of detects other colors to change. So it changed part of her hair. So normally you just click and drag a box around the iris or around the pupil, around areas where you see red. You can go over it a few times if you need to, or increase the pupil size, increase the darken amount, and then it'll do more, it will clean it quicker maybe, but it might make the eye a little too dark. And there I am. And then you can just drag box around. The Lightroom also has something called Pet Eye that works really nicely to get the white light out of the, like sometimes you have too much of a white in your eye from the light, like that happens to pets a lot. So like that big white area there. So I'm just dragging a box over the eyes, cleaning the red out of the eyes on everyone who needs it. She has a lot of red there, so it drag. And you can experiment with dragging the box really big or smaller and see what gets you better results over little smaller areas until you get all the red out. Sometimes it helps to drag a bigger box even. He doesn't really have much, but it will darken his eyes. And then she's got some, so you can drag around just the iris, or you can go a little bigger if you want. Drag a few times till they're all clean. Alright, everyone's eyes look much better, much healthier. Alright, so then you just go File and Save As. And put it in the Finished folder. Finished, save it as a PDF, Photoshop PDF. Save, okay. Save PDF. And I'm going to just close this one and not save the JPEG. Don't save. Okay, what's next? Okay, here's the Wrinkles heel. I'm going to open this one up. Command O. And I'm going to find it in my 12 images, the one called Wrinkles heel. Okay, so for this one, you could just use the spot healing brush or the healing brush tool. So I'm going to start with the spot healing brush, and you might just drag along the wrinkle in the direction, just along the wrinkle, or you could try dragging this way, but you'll get more, cover more ground if you just drag along the whole wrinkle, smooth things out here, taking years off her age. This reminds me of one time I went to a career fair with my resume looking for a graphic design job. Anyone ever been to a career fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did it go? Was it helpful? Did you help you find any leads, any job leads?
Yeah, it's a good way to put yourself out there.
Yeah, it definitely is. Unfortunately, it's not always gonna, it's not, the people that come are not always, you know, there with job opportunities. Unfortunately, that's the idea though, so I'm sure that there are plenty of career fairs that do have job opportunities. But I remember one I went to, there was this company at a table trying to sell me some kind of anti-wrinkle procedure, and I was in my 20s at the time. I didn't think I don't think I had any wrinkles, but they were still trying to sell this thing to me, and they were showing me and I was just looking for a job in graphic design, and I was saying, "Oh, well, I could do that in Photoshop." And they were saying, "Oh, no, this isn't Photoshop. This is real." And with their before and after pictures, and I was just saying, I was just asking them if they had any openings for a graphic designer, but apparently they did not. And I didn't want to participate in if they were doing any fake before and after pictures anyway. So I said, "See ya."
Integrity.
Yes. But some people just like to take off their wrinkles for the fun of it. See what they might look like with a facelift. They could have hired someone to get reel in a customer by taking a picture of someone and asking for a potential customer's picture, and then they clean it all up in Photoshop and say, "See, this is what you'll look like after you use our product."
That's a lost opportunity.
Yeah, if only they were thinking. If only I was thinking, I could have told them that. Alright, so you just, you click and drag over the wrinkles just like we did for the blemishes, and And you can try with the other one, the healing brush, where you can set the texture. You can option click somewhere on a texture you like and then paint over an area and see if that gives you good results to smooth out an area. Kind of. Some of these lines are nice. Oops, I think I put a texture I didn't want there, so I could always go to the history brush and paint it back to the way it was and try again with a different tool. Back to healing brush, or you could even try patch tool and see how patch tool might work here. Draw a little patch around it, go to a clear area. That kind of works. It's kind of making it a little too textural. I think that spot healing brush is gonna do the majority of the work pretty nicely. Uh-oh. Now it's telling me about the crash. That was a long delay. You can make your brush bigger. See how that helps. Now that just put some weird green color right there, so I'm gonna undo that and try going back to my healing brush where I can set where I'm taking texture from, because I think they got some texture from her hair and put it on the skin. So we can option click to say I want the texture from the forehead and then paint it over here. But just keep option clicking to readjust, because if I option click down here and then I'm painting, then it's going into the eyebrow, into the eye, and look at that. It just put, wow, it put like part of her, like the eye texture over there. That's not what you want to do. So that's why you have to just keep readjusting if you're using the healing brush. I'm going to undo that, and I can undo again, and option click up higher, and then paint on, clean up, smooth out the areas I want to smooth out. Option click over here. So this is what the healing brush tool. If you get mixed up and you're on the spot healing brush tool and then you option click, it's funny because it gives you the target when you hold option, but when you're on the spot healing brush tool and you option click, it's gonna give you a little message saying, hey, I'm the spot healing brush tool. I'm cooler than that. I can heal on the spot. Well, it didn't actually say that, but basically that's what it says in a nutshell. So it's saying that it's the spot healing brush tool. If you want to be able to sample pixels by option clicking, you use the healing brush tool for that. The spot healing brush tool heals on the spot, so you don't need to, it's supposed to be smarter, so you don't need to set the texture, but sometimes you do. So then you switch to the healing brush tool to set the texture. But I think she's looking, well, she's a little blurry right here. So then we go back to history and like bring back the wrinkles, and then go back to spot healing and just kind of go a little over that a little more carefully. And then look at it. Let's see. Maybe take that one out. That one and that one. And then you can look at your history panel here and stretch it out. See all the work that was done. And if you scroll all the way up to the top, you can click on the top just to see before. And then go all the way down to the bottom of the list and after. So as long as you made some progress, you're good to go. And then you can just go to File and Save As, and save it as a Photoshop PDF. Photoshop PDF. Just leave the same name, but put it in your finished folder. If you have a finished files folder of PDFs, save there. Okay, to that message. Oh, now it's going back to the high quality. I'll just go back to press quality and save PDF. And then I'm going to close this and not save it. And then next is this dust and scratches image here. Man, oh. So this is an image that a friend of mine, a client of mine who I was making a video for, she did some work in Haiti in founding a school, and she gave me this image, and I was scanning it in my scanner, and no matter how much Windex I use on my scanner, I always seem to get these little bits and pieces of look like dust and scratches. So Photoshop actually has a filter for that. So if you go to filter and you go to noise, then you can actually choose dust and scratches, and it will dramatically just clean all those little specks that might show up because when you scan with just one radius. You don't have to go too far. If you go too far, if you crank it up too high, it's gonna blur everything out. So you don't want to do that. If you blur things out, if you have to blur things out, then you can bring up the threshold to try to sharpen the details back, but that'll kind of look artificial. So it's best to keep threshold 0 if you can, and all you need is 1 pixel radius. Let's see if, can you see, let's see if I click preview. See, can you see the dust and scratches when I uncheck preview, and then see how it all goes away? And you can also see up close in this little image when I click and drag with the hand here, it's showing all the little specks. When I release, it shows what the 1 pixel radius is doing to clean away the dust and scratches. So now I'm going to say okay. So when you do this, you'll see the results. So then I'm just going to save as, save on the computer, go to my finished files, make this, actually it was a TIFF, I think I had it listed wrong as a Photoshop, but it was a TIFF file. I'm going to switch this to Photoshop PDF. So everything's a PDF now. Save. Okay. Press quality, say PDF. And then I'm going to close that. Don't save. Okay. Well, maybe just to show you what it looked like before. See, I don't know if I zoomed in. See those little specks? That was what it looked like before, and it went away. Going to our next image here. Oversaturated. So we have an oversaturated image that we need to desaturate a little bit to make it look natural. So sometimes, I'm going to hit Command O. Sometimes just a little bit of desaturation can go a long way to make skin color look natural. So I just wanted you to see that. Going into images, oversaturated. This one. So everything looks red and too saturated. So you can do this destructively, or you under image adjustments, hue saturation, or you could do this non-destructively. So you can go to the little pizza button and hue saturation, and now I have the hue saturation adjustment layer, and I have the hue saturation controls and properties, and all you have to do here is bring down the saturation. You can just leave it on master and just bring down the saturation a little bit, and then it will look a lot more natural. And you can not only click the layer off, eyeball off and on to see before and after, but you can also, from the properties panel, you can click on the eyeball on the properties panel to turn off and on the effect of the adjustment layer as well. And you could also use these buttons here from the properties panel, like to see the previous state that you did or to reset everything back. So those are handy buttons too. Okay, so I'm just going to go with that file and save as. Going to my finished folder as a Photoshop PDF, save. Okay, save PDF and close. Sometimes if you close too quickly before it's done saving, it'll say the document will be closed after saving is complete. Say okay, and don't save. Alright, next. Okay, turn the whipped cream green. Let's look for that image. Command O. So that's in the 12 images folder. And there it is. So with this one, I'd like you to explore curves. And that you could do destructively or non-destructively as well. But I'm going to probably just do it destructively. So you go image, adjustments, curves. And you don't have to turn the whipped cream green. If you want to just experiment and see what this effect does without worrying about making the whipped cream actually turn green, that's fine. You can do a lot of beautiful visual effects with color, with curves. I kind of just like the ring, the name kind of has a ring to it, turn the whipped cream green. And it does give you a goal to set if you want to try to turn the whipped cream green, that's fine. But don't be too hard on yourself if it just doesn't turn out green. But let's look at some strategies on how we might turn it green if we want to. So with this curves menu here, we can set the channel or channels that we're going to work on. Right now it's set to RGB, so it's going to work on all the channels, red, green, and blue all together. And you see this histogram shows kind of how the pixel colors are distributed in the image. And we have this band that we can alter. That's, altering the curve. So if I can click on the band to when I'm in this vector mode, this is the vector button mode, I can click to add points, and then I can drag like the midtones to be brighter by dragging this point up, or I could drag the midtones to be darker by dragging below the line. So that's kind of how that works. Or you could do the shadows and increase the brightness of the shadows. Because I'm working on RGB, it's just adjusting the brightness overall or darkening. But then you start to really alter the shape of the curve, and then different colors start to appear. But in general, lifting the curve above the line is brightening. This is the upper midtones I'm brightening. This is the highlights mainly. Or this way up here would be more like highlights. Brightening the highlights, darkening in the highlights. But that's not what I want to do. Let's say I want to isolate just the red. So I go to reds, and then I can see how red is distributed in the image. So I can add points to increase red, or go against the histogram and add points here and here, and then dip the red down in this area. Now that's making the whipped cream turn green. So maybe I add another point here, and I drop down. So going against the distribution of red pixels, dipping down here and down here, that's a way to turn the whipped cream green. Let's go to green. So maybe I want to work with the histogram on green, so I can add points here, and kind of move this down here. Ooh, now that made it purple. But if I drag this up, drag this down, I can kind of accentuate the greens in the image. Now there's a green background coming in here. So you can just play with things that way, and you can say okay and be done with it whenever you want, whenever you feel like it. Blue, you can play with it, adjust the blues. Ooh, that's fun. That looks pretty. So you can make everything green or not. So now I'm just adjusting the blues, or bring the blues down. Do different things like that or this, and I could go with that and say okay. So that would be a destructive edit right to the pixels in the image. But if I'm gonna undo that and just show you, you could also go to add the adjustment layer, and there's curves right there. You can click the curves button, and I could go to red and do the same thing. Oh, one thing I forgot to show you though, I like to usually show you on the other one as well, whether you're doing destructive or non-destructive editing, you could also switch from the vector button to the pencil button, and then it lets you kind of freeform draw, and then go back to vector, and then you can still alter the shape of your curve by points. So what am I doing? Increasing the red. Let's do the opposite. Decrease the red, and then you have more of a green coming in.
Which do you prefer?
Between the pencil or the vector control?
Yeah.
I think a combination is sometimes helpful, because sometimes you just want to quickly draw something out, and then you want to switch back to the vector control to have a little to alter it and define it more.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good question. So maybe I'll do that, and then go try to do something with green. So I could use the pencil and accentuate the greens here or here or here. Ooh, now it's red. Maybe I'll redraw that and have this one dip down. But then see, the line that I drew with the pencil is just not, like, it's not a well-defined line until I go back to vector, and then I can adjust it a little bit further. Now I made it, the whipped cream is officially red with a green outline, which could be cool too. Or then I go to blue and try something else. So it's just kind of maybe slower with, if you just work with vector, then you have to just click, 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 but it's more methodical, maybe more controlled. Whereas with the pencil, you can just kind of sketch something out really quick and then alter it. But this is kind of cool. Okay, so that's doing it with the adjustment layer on curves. And then I could just save that file, save as, save on your computer as a Photoshop PDF. And exercise 6, finished files, save. And okay. So with curves, it just does some really cool effects with the color in the image. So see how that works with that. Okay, I'm going to close this. Don't save. And next is The last one, number 12, is reset color cast. So this is like a white balance technique. Has anyone ever white balanced a camera? No? Okay, so you tend to white balance more if you're working with high-end video, but you can white balance any high-end camera. So I'm going to choose reset color cast. And what is white balancing? Anyone know what white balancing is? When you go out with a camera and you shoot your own images, when you want to have more control over the colors in the image, you might be on a more manual mode. So in that case, you would have to set the white balance. You have to balance the way the camera picks up the color of light, because light has different color temperature. You notice indoor lighting is more warm. Sunlight is actually a higher temperature, but it looks bluer in color in relation to indoor lighting that looks more yellow. And so if you balance your camera for outdoor lighting and then you bring it in to indoor lighting, the color of the light's going to look more yellow. And when you balance your camera for outdoor lighting and you bring it indoors and shoot, then everything's going to look blue. In this case, there's a more yellow color cast. There's also fluorescent light, which has kind of a green cast to it. So when we shoot with a camera that's not properly balanced, a lot of times you'll end up with an image with a color cast over everything. And that can be corrected later in editing and in Photoshop with adjustments. Like in image adjustments, Levels has the option to do some color cast balance or white balancing. You would just use these droppers here. Instead of using the sliders to adjust the lights and darks, you could use Levels to reset the color cast. But in the instructions, I ask you to do it with curves. It's also on curves, but you can try it either way. So there's the white point dropper you can click, and then you just have to find something in your image that you think is purely white or that should be set as white. So the wall, maybe the wall should actually be white rather than yellow. So you click on that, and then it sets everything and adjusts the colors and everything so that the color of light, the color of the light was actually kind of reading as yellow, but now the color of the light is reading as a neutral white by setting that white point. You can also set the black, something black you can click on, and that adjusts the image so that it neutralizes the blacks. And gray is optional, but there's a gray point. You can find something that's gray, but if you don't like the results, you can click on something else, then check preview to see before. It's all kind of hazy yellow, and then after it's cleaner. But let's say I don't want to do it with Levels. You can also do it with curves. You go image adjustments, curves, and you have the same 3 droppers here in curves. So you can set the white point, set the black point on something black. Maybe this is black, or this could be black, or just something really dark. And the gray point on something gray. Oh no, sometimes you just click on the wrong thing. So something that's a purely neutral gray. Maybe that'll be better. And that's how you do it destructively, and see how it adjusts the red, green, and blue. It changes the curves and changes the color cast in the image. But you can also do this non-destructively, so you can add curves as an adjustment. And there are those droppers again. You can do this with levels too. So there's the white point dropper, the black point dropper, and the gray point dropper. So we'll try this again. So I'll set the wall as white, and then we go to black, set something dark in the image that looks like it's a true black or just a dark area. You could even just go to a dark, really dark area. And then a gray, maybe here. If you like that result, you can go with that, or you can click around, find some other area that could be a gray until you get, no, it's there. Something so that it balances the image to look overall natural, so the skin tone looks natural, and that could be, that is setting the lighting in the room to be a neutral white. And when you're done doing that, you just go File, Save As, and make it a PDF. Put it in the finished files. Reset color cast and save, and OK there, and save, and then we can close it and not save this. Don't save. So when you're done doing all those PDFs, all the finished files, then you can, and I put one on accident here that I don't want, then you can combine all of them in Acrobat. So let's see, let's go to Acrobat, and then you just go File and hover over Create, and then choose Combine Files into a single PDF, and you can click Add Files and choose them there, or since I already have it open, I can, my finished files, I could just select all of them, click on one, shift click the bottom, drag them all in, and you can rearrange the order however you want. It doesn't matter the order. And then and this is thumbnail view, this is list view. I like thumbnail view. Then you can just click combine, and they all combine. And then we've got all the images here. They get saved as binder, or they're not actually saved when it's called binder 1 until so then you go File, Save, and then you can choose where you want to save it to. So I'll just put it in my Exercise 6 folder there by clicking on that, and then remember to name this last name, first initial, dash Ex6, your last exercise. So this one file is what you turn in for your regular credit. I'm going to put that in folder, in the Exercise 6 folder. Save. So that's the one file that combines all of the work together.